I understand as a child, I always knew what I was going to be. And so I always knew I was going to be a healer. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. And so it took me on a path of learning.
Aloha, and welcome to Healers' Voices, the podcast that brings you the healing heartbeats of Maui and around the world. I'm your host, Jessica Brazil, and together we embark on a journey to explore the inspiring stories of individuals who are making a profound impact on both local and global levels. From the powerful healing of Maui, we are here to amplify the voices of healers, visionaries, and change makers. We believe in the transformative power of dialogue to chart a future where all life thrives, living in harmony with the natural world and embodying the spirit of aloha.
Currently living in Australia's just out of Sydney in the country, Southern Highlands. I am Maori background, come from a family of 9 brothers and sisters, as well as adopted, as we adopted within the family. So a big family, 56 first cousins. So a great relationship to grow up in with everyone and to play constantly. Has its downfalls and has its great stuff too. And we keep each other company and we're always there for each other. And they are the only ones who can tell you off, and it's not personal. It's only family can tell you, pull your head in, and it's not personal. So grew up in a community called Takitumu Te Waka, called Takitumu Te Marae. These are the canoe that my ancestors came into New Zealand. And my marae, my meeting house community, is also Takitumu. Or Kahununu Te Iwi is Ngāti Kahununu is my tribe. Te Wairoa is my river, and Te Whakapanuki is my mountain, as they protect the mountain, protect the river to feed, and every tribe in New Zealand is identified to a river and a mountain out of respect, as they are our protectors. They feed us, and we congregate to these areas through our meeting places. So that's where we grew up. All through my childhood, grew up around our meeting house with festivals and funerals. So we grew up around all of this, which was normal. We spent a lot of time. We enjoyed. We learned a lot of stuff, which were now as we get older to realize how culturally significant they were, and how much spirituality actually had in the meaning instead of just being told off. And so I figured it taught us a lot of discipline, the discipline to listen and to learn to know that everything is holistic and everything is connected. And without knowing that, I think it's the childhood energy that we embraced, instead of thinking as a child, your nan is just telling you off or your aunt is just telling you off. It makes sense later. So it was a nice upbringing to understand this, because I think it set my path later in life to be respectful of a lot of things, and that was not just those things that were important, but the bigger things, the bigger things to the land, to everyone else's understanding of life. So I think it helped with all of that. I understand as a child, I always knew what I was going to be. And so I always knew I was going to be a healer. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. And so it took me on a path of learning. And a lot of learning has helped me understand people's behaviors, because I think I must have went through most of those behaviors to have a language of understanding. And so all the rights and wrongs, I think in that regard, it helped me be humble to a lot of people's thoughts and how external things influence. I think that's basically how I become to what I am now. And then there's all these other things of understanding knowledge and wisdom and, just living life. But one main thing that we learned is things take our breath from us, which is the breath of life. And the breath of life has always been important in our culture. And so stress takes the breath of life from us. And that's in every regard. And that's what I work on. I work on emotions. I manipulate the water in the body, and the water is 60-70%. And that is to get the river flowing so that the emotion is not blocked through the body. So that's basically my concept of my work. And,
amazing. Well, I felt like I met a version of you back 2015, approaching 2016, in the middle of a jungle. There was, spiritual community coming together, and there was a healer's tent set up there. And I just remember being gravitated to this area. There's so many people in the middle of this like nature-rich space. And I remember meeting you, and right away we had a chance to talk about you being a Maori traditional healer, and was in this space of I guess being really connected to the land, connected to kind of our organic state, and removed from some of that urban lifestyle. And so when you talk about your name coming from your grandfather's last name, meaning rolling mountains, deep well, or deep
my two grandfathers on both sides. The middle name and my last name.
Middle name of the last name. Okay. Yeah.
And the idea with that was to make those names better than the way we receive them. To make them more. And so
the name was built upon, like it was a continuation of your grandfather's name, like an extension. Okay.
And that's how our mother and my grandfather carried it a certain way, and now I carry it in a different way through the healing. But it's still my ancestors' name that I carry for them.
Yeah. So I'm curious, in a traditional cultural, indigenous cultural context, because you've lived, I'd like to say, between multiple worlds in this lifetime, more traditional sense, from what I understand, and modern sense where I've had like a clinic type practice in a more urban area. Now, back into nature, so a bit of a full circle.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about your traditional? It's beautiful that there was so much influence in your upbringing. It was like a full lifestyle. It's like where what I heard is that you learned from a young age that correction, there was a lot of teaching with correction, that allowed a maturation to occur within yourself, as well as in how you understand and relate to the environment and the spirits of the environment.
Yes.
Um,
Because we grew up around a lot of tapu stuff, sacred stuff, and we didn't even know, but we did. And if we were told to say, stay away from there, we weren't told why. You just had to believe. And so I think that helped, because it helps you believe in something that you actually can't see. But you believe the person who's telling you, because they are our elders and respectful in that way. And I think that was the understanding. And as a child, you want to know why and why and why. But I think when you grow up in a community like that, you don't ask why. You just do. And I think later on, because being sensitive people, we could always sense it anyway. That, the spirits. And so stay away from there. That's why someone said, don't go there. And so that was nice to know that in reflection now.
So it helped you attune to different energies.
Oh, definitely. And without even knowing. But it was really doing it. It's something organic. And so I think our and that's how separated our culture really was from, you could call it the real world, because you had to grow up in that, in the Western understanding. And it really doesn't fit in.
Yeah.
That was only for your community place.
So there's a huge...
Two people.
What was that?
Living like two people. Two people in one world, one body.
So you mentioned in 2008 there was a significant life transition that set you on a different path.
Yes. As I always said, I knew I was going to be. I lost my job, and I was through that. I was set on the path that almost was going to be the path I'm on afterwards, and that was I got sacked from my job as a courier worker, and so through it was a worldwide crash, and so thousands of jobs are unemployed. So I thought I'd do a shortcut course, and that was massage. And through massage, it was only for a year, and so I learned the massage, and it wasn't until I had finished 98% of the course that I realized that it actually, now I understand why I'm doing it. Otherwise, it didn't make sense to me to how this could fit in energetically and spiritually, because it was all clinically taught. And it wasn't until the end that I got it. And to be honest, I was the worst of my class. And so I think I had to work harder. As my teacher once says, we didn't think you'd make it to the end. And I said, I was always going to make it. I'm stubborn. So, but there was more to it than that. They pushed me in there, my guides, my ancestors, to say, hey, this is your path now. And so I stuck to it and I fought for it. It wasn't easy.
For somebody who's not used to attuning themselves to their ancestors or their guides, what would a tip be for someone less familiar with what that experience is like? How that would come about?
Because that's a hard thing to answer is, as we all understand, that spirituality is an individual thing. So how do we connect? And I go, by connecting to that inner voice that you know is not your voice. And you'll be able to hear it and to make space for you to hear it, because you're hearing the magic within ourselves. But to do that, you've got to give space to allow that, whatever that is, and that is to quiet the mind so you can hear something outside of your own mind. And there's a quiet voice in there, and when you hear that quiet voice, it does get louder, because it's got to say to you, because it has yourself in mind, and it wants to help better you, to serve you. Is that?
It does. I'm like mentally noting, hearing the magic within oneself. I really like that description, but it's quieting it's not from the thinking place. This is once the thinking is turned off, there's like, the Christian or the Bible, they say like, be still and know that I am God, right? And that and then the meditators say I am, is the gateway language into understanding a deeper layer of the inner.
Sorry. Yeah. Because all those words can be taken either way. But I think if you take it from a place of light, then you'll find the right way. And that is really, truly what we are here to do. We are here to be in service to humanity. And I think that's when we hear the greatest voice. And, one of our elders once said, we come here as twins. And as twins, we come here as one to serve this physical world, and one is to serve the higher spirit, the higher realm, and God. That's how we come here as twins. And the physical world takes over. And so then it becomes an imbalance.
And so when you're working with somebody on that water molecular level to get that flow going, is that a part in that? I mean, water has a spirit, right? It has a life force. And so is that water element really pivotal to merging a connection for people between their physical and their spiritual self?
Definitely, because it adds fear. It adds obstacles instead of the trusting. Because that's why we, as we talked about the breath of life, sometimes you're meant to cry, you're meant to scream, you're meant to say instead of holding it in. And when we're not doing that, the system's not flowing. If you do that over a long time, then through my work, I give you your voice back, because it meant to cry or meant to scream. And again, let's help you with your voice. So the river flows. I chant through it, because I found it an easier way to vibrate the water. Frequency. And I always do prayers. I do prayers 7 or 8 times through the body, and that is just to let their guides and my guides work together to do that for the person. Because sometimes they call it as a funny thing. I'm lazy. I let them do all the work.
I remember you saying that when I had a session with you, because it was powerful. And I was like,
I haven't changed.
What was that?
Sounds like I haven't changed from saying that.
I remember. Well, I mean, it was a great reminder, and it's actually stuck with me. Where you just said, "I'm not tired at all because I'm not. I don't have to do all the work." And that's mentally note that one.
Yeah.
Breath of life, is infinite and always flowing through. And
And also understanding that part of it is that I let the people own it, let the person own it, because then it's an empowerment instead of me suggesting too much. Because when they know what's the cause of it, then they are making peace with it. And if I'm just releasing it, then I carry their karma. As you know, example as adults, when a child is disconnected from their parent and they keep getting frustrated by their parents' behavior back, then the child starts carrying the karma. But if the child makes peace with their parents and their parents' behavior is still their own, then they separating themselves internally by things that are external, and they will start carrying the karma. So again, something small, but has big rewards. But that's them understanding that within themselves, because it really is separating and taking responsibility for what is ours and what is not ours. And when we have that better concept, then it gets easier to navigate the world, because we have to use different tools in different places, because we can't use the tool in the same place every time, because the world won't let you, and which would be a shame. But if you're in your own environment, you can always be you. But we have to go into environments that are not ours, but we have to be strong while we're in it. Just don't stay there too long, because it's not our environment to be in, but it's our environment to visit, because there is many of them around that we need to visit, because if we like it or not. It's so it's easy to navigate. That's what I share a lot of. And then I cut the cords. And especially the most ones I cut is in the stomach, as the stomach is the one that digests information and it communicates it. And when it can't do those two things, then it becomes bloated. And after a long time, then it becomes restricted to food intolerances after a long time. And if for a short time, you can get away with it. After a long time, the body cannot do that.
So how would somebody new to cutting the cord, like when I hear that, I hear like, okay, a challenging experience, just like a food that maybe it's not easy to digest, or an interaction with somebody.
Yes.
It's like the energetic elimination, like an energetic bowel movement in a way. How would you invite somebody to cut the cord?
To understand the timeline. I do timelines. I read understanding, and so I give them a period where a situation happened, and when they understand the pattern, because realistically, I actually work with patterns and algorithms. And we keep going on this pathway, then there's a different algorithm to it. And so we want to see where the beginning has, or the algorithm actually really started, if it's an uncomfortable one. And if there's a good algorithm, then we just strengthen it. And the body has all those answers.
Yeah. I like that terminology, algorithm, because that's something we all think is outside just in the technology world, but we actually are a technology ourselves as well. So we have algorithms that are encoded within our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies to
Yeah. Because those are the pathways, until we try find a different pathway to our thought process. Because the thought process is bringing in experience, how to react to a experience. And that's why some triggers feel like they're so big, because it's all the other triggers that come with it. And so pathway mentally. So this one can do the most speaking, because this one's the kind one.
Mm-hmm.
That one will manipulate and tell you every answer you want and tell you answers that are not even relevant to the question. And it's not in a good place. So, yeah, that one has a kind answer most times.
So if somebody's working on cutting the cords, like you said, what would that look like? How would they go about doing that?
Well, I usually have 2 to 3 hour sessions, and I speak to them about what's going to happen, the understanding behind it, and it's not comfortable if you hold on to a lot. And I say to them, if you had a fairy godmother life, then this won't be painful. And if you've been through a lot, then let me help you, because it takes our breath away, because we don't even realize most people don't breathe properly. And, that's all that stuff where we go, what if I say it wrong? What if it doesn't come out right? I go, then we stop breathing properly. And that's also stops our communication by how we programming. And it just becomes a habit. And we like to say, there's a different pathway, there's a better story here. Let's help you, let's imprint into your system a new pathway that is empowering to you, that you can own the pathway, that is, you can own the story, because you're already doing it in other areas. And so it's not something you're already doing it. And that's the part, those are some of the parts through my work I can enhance to say, you know how to do this. You've done this before. We just forget because we use the other one, the external one, instead of the internal one. So I do that, and I share other things as I can see when I'm looking at someone. They show me a lot about the person in front of me, because the person just drops their guard, and it doesn't take long to drop their guard, because whatever's in the space, it allows them to feel safe, and then everything just drops off. And then now, like a book, they let me read them. So, yeah. So it doesn't take long and it's all about giving them a safe space, and they go, now I can read them. It really is depending on giving them that. So I'd like to think that's how it all works. And I'm still learning, I'm still growing, and I haven't stopped growing, and which is a great thing, because I still learn from my clients, which, like yourself, as we all know how important that is, because we want to offer them more to the next ones. And so I like that. New insights keep coming. And I go, cool, I'm about to learn something new.
Yeah. You talk about in your work too that part of deep healing or being a faith healer is facing hard truths.
Yeah, because the body is honest, the soul is honest. The mind doesn't always fit the program, because it's been programmed a different way. And so we go back into the childhood patterns and the beginning patterns, and it usually does start that far back. And so,
what can you think of a situation, maybe in a healing or a session with somebody that was facing a hard truth that awakened, some hard truths within yourself as well?
Kind people are the ones who suffer the most, the majority, not all, because they are sensitive. They like to always put everyone else first, And these are patterns. So when they go to school, they put in one of their friends first. When they go meet their partners, they put their partners first. When they go to a job, they put their job first. They keep getting burnt out. They keep running out of petrol. They keep running on fumes. And so this is an algorithm. This is a pattern, in that way. So we say something as simple as that. How do we help change that? And then go, fill up your petrol tank. Be selfish, because you're not going to be very good at it. Be selfish. Why? Because you'll put the people next to you, not in front of you, so that you pull up your petrol tank, so that they get the best of you. That's how we change the program. And then they say, actually not being selfish. I'm putting everyone equal with me. Well, I still be kind to me first.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is that what you mean?
That's what I think. That's a great example. I guess when it involves facing hard truths, a kind person might realize that their overgiving is actually not as helpful to those around them as they think it may be, because they're not giving the best.
Yes.
And that
yes.
quantity or the quality over the quantity.
Yes.
I think I also was curious when facing hard truths. You mentioned that in the work that you do, like it's deep and you're facing really hard truths. And to me, that's the spiritual path or the personal development path, period, is facing hard truths as they are timed. It's not like here's this list of truths and they're going to reveal themselves in different ways at different times. And I'm curious how maybe an example of working with people who are resistant to confronting deeper issues or deeper truths, especially.
You come across that. Exactly what you mean. And an example is someone says, I want to let an ex go. And so I work in a system where they're keeping their memory, their energy, and I'm trying to pull it out of them. And I'm really hurting them. I go, I actually want to ask you a question. Are you actually ready to let them go? Because you're resisting. And they said, I'm not ready yet. And I go, now that you said that, look how much easier it is now. Because you're not quite ready yet. And so the body knows that. And I go, okay, finally, you're being honest here. I want to go, but not today. And that's the spirit's or the energy's truth to them. Because I'm trying to pull out something that's not ready to come out. And it really hurts.
Yeah.
That was one example. And another one is I already know someone's not telling me something, why they've come to see me. But if they're not going to share it with me, I'm not going to pull it out of them. Because there's no honesty with it. So someone, example of, comes here, their partner says, you've got a drug problem and come and see me, and they actually don't give it the understanding it really is a problem. And they just lightly brush over it. And so I actually know that I actually not ready to get rid of that, because their mentality side of it is not going to release it. Mm-hmm. So it's really uncomfortable for them because they don't want to own it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they wanted to own it, then we'll go back to the layers of why it's a problematic. But if they don't, then they're not going to show it. And so that's what I mean by the honesty, or the being dishonest with it, because it doesn't want to come out. And that I know is now, as a healer, I will get exhausted because I'm trying to get rid of something that they don't want to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that too.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or isn't ready, right?
Definitely not.
Yeah.
But they might be ready for other things, but not. So maybe if I clear this one, maybe it'll help them with the other one.
Mm-hmm.
And as their karma, their journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe in a couple of years' time when they come back, I go, now I'm ready. I go, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And help
Mm-hmm.
more. Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. My experience in talking with or working with Indigenous healers over the years has been like this richness of wisdom and knowing and relationship with our most organic state of being in our human journey as spiritual beings having a human experience.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm consistently keep coming back to this question of what are some steps that you would invite listeners to move into to deepen their connection to their Indigenous nature that hasn't been exposed to this rich background and mentorship that you've experienced, but craves, to step deeper into this relationship to an Indigenous shamanic.
Yes. I think when we talk about Indigenous cultures, there's generations and generations of shame and guilt. So you're not just dealing with like sometimes they talk about the fifth and seventh generation. And to clear something, then it takes another 2 generations after that to get the greater rewards of the shift. So you're not just dealing with someone in the moment. I like to say, if someone has this much, ancestral lines, I think plays out in that, and so how far back, and so when we talk about depression or addictions or something, and they go, that's a lot of pain, but it comes out through addictions. So, like to say, you're not actually just dealing with a person's stuff, you're actually dealing with the ancestral line of it. So maybe that's small. The whole situation actually have to deal with it that big, and that's why the energy is bigger, and the whole sense of it is bigger. So how does that help the person? And I like to think and like to say we have to go internal. We have to, our culture has given us good traditional values, sense of that, going back to internal. It is almost like go back into yourself and then start working out externally. And because there's always 2 questions we always ask of ourselves that we need to know how to answer. And one is, if you don't know who you are, someone will tell you who you are. And the second one, if you don't know where you're going, someone will tell you where to go. And they don't have your best interest in the heart, then you could end up anywhere. And when you can answer these 2, when someone says you're not good, and I go, that's not true, I know who I am. And I go, now you're starting to own the internal. And it really is start there, and then just like anything, there you can build in first.
And going inward can allow somebody to also, even if they're disconnected from some of their ancestral gifts and lineages, they can discover those, even if they've gone through a trauma or a displacement or a separation, that they can rediscover by going forward. their Indigenous connection to their.
Because those never go. They are always in there.
Mm-hmm.
They never change. They just change as we develop, negatively or positively. And so these things that as a lot of children who are, afraid of the dark, and then they go, they're already connected to it. And they're so sensitive, they can already feel it. So it's not for now until they get understanding that light will always protect them from the negative spirits, is that the gift was always there.
Mm-hmm.
So somewhere our ancestors want us to, like they won't give us too much we can't handle.
Mm-hmm.
They will always give us enough, and especially Indigenous will start realizing in whatever experience they're going through, they always go back to something. And why? Because they know there's something wherever they go, if that means back to their homeland. Usually when we go back to our homeland, our intuition goes higher.
Mm-hmm.
But we're in a good headspace. We're not going to make the sense of it that we should.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really just saying, when you find you'll make sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
When you find yourself, you will hear it louder.
Mm-hmm.
Just waiting for you to get there.
So what drew you to move from New Zealand to Australia?
Yeah, I thought a lot about that.
Mm-hmm.
And because if I was back home, I think I was meant to be here to share my culture everywhere, not just for our tribe. Because back home, we have our people that take care of each other, their own people. So people who go through stuff don't go to other healers in different areas. And if there was, then there would have been someone very special for them to do that. Otherwise, they go to their own.
Mm-hmm.
So, been doing this for so many years now, and it's actually quite funny. Hardly any of my people come and see me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I understand that. But I also understand that maybe I feel that I meant to share this to everyone, not just to our own.
Yeah.
And take my cultural humbleness to share this is who we are as people.
Mm-hmm.
So I have thought a lot about that question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm grateful that you have that you've brought your gift out into a way that more can access. My experience has been that it's helping communities navigate more cultural and community crisis, including some of the climate grief we're going through, or natural and unnatural disasters. That
Yes.
this wisdom helps correct the course of getting back into a rhythm that's connected to this breath of life that you speak to, right? That is more harmonious with nature and with one another. It's not as harsh as going through the discipline of nature, is what I like to say. Nature disciplines. It self-corrects.
Well,
So
yes, sorry.
go ahead. No, I just wanted to invite you to comment on that.
Yes, I think we're in the greatest period ever. Because if you believe in past lives, so much karma is coming out right now to everyone that's actually facing all the karma of all the lifetimes. And I think that's what's happening right now. And like anything that's happening, there's two things happening: the Great Awakening and the Great Reset, and they're playing out at the same time. And as everything, our leaders are not listening to people, and I think people have started to realize we actually lost our sovereignty. and Indigenous people know for a long time. Now you know what it's like. We lost ours a long time ago, but not really. We came together as a community to actually never lose it. And so everyone doesn't matter who you are. You have always just didn't realize until just recently that it is something else leading everything. And I think as harsh as what is happening in the Middle East at the moment, it is really saying the systems that the world has built, meaning the United Nations and all the rules and the courts, were meant to protect the world. And people go, hey, these things actually don't work. And they go, they weren't. They were as face value. Someone else is controlling all of this. And I think that's what's showing to people realize the ones in charge are actually, they're not in charge. And I think that is how people grow. To grow to say, hey, we've been taught to be, to everything is mine, and realize you actually got to feel for your neighbor. You give your neighbor a helping hand, then they can grow into anything. And the world has taught us not to. If your neighbor doesn't have anything, because they must be lazy. And it's not the case. So it is a funny way to say, what are the changes here? And you go, it had to change, because we were just carried on like, things are okay. And now it's showing, actually, no, they're not. And so I think this is the hardest way to see the changes, that someone is being used as tools to make a change through people dying from it.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part to watch.
It is. And, as more people lose their trust in systems that are, taking them away from their innate breath of life and their connection to their community, their connection to their sense of self, their connection to their ancestors. We find, okay, now where do I look? And or what do we create? And so we have, wonderful healers' voices like your own to look to and listen for guidance on how to, create new communities, or just how to redesign your inner world to move forward in a different way, and to create from a deeper space that's more of from that sovereign nature, right? And so when for those who maybe would want to learn from you more, I know that you offer retreats, you offer sessions, you have some wonderful land space that's rich and deep. Can you tell us a little bit about how somebody could learn more from you if they feel drawn to what you've shared today?
I think coming out of the city, I think we normalize. And when you come out of that space, because that's when we were in Bondi Junction, when people come into the space, they go, wow, we're in the middle of Bondi and there's no, it feels different. And they go, yeah, the space protects. The space surrounds you and getting you out of the energy. So all we've done was taken that space out into the country, and I go, now you can come further out and actually drop in and spend, instead of going back out into Bondi, you actually get time to integrate. And so through that way, my partner and I have been able to share more and run more classes, and all the classes all about deeper healing, not just come here to have a break, but to do. So we do know we have a niche in doing that, and that niche is you come here, you got work to do, and the nicest way. And people who do come here, they want to do the work. They want to do the work to help them, and that's what we like to offer. So we are really proud of all that work that we had done. Because last time I saw you yourself, we had moved into a bigger place in Marae Junction, and it was a big 6-room clinic, and we had a big room where we can run classes and meditation classes. And then we had another one where we had a community room where people can just come and sit and drop in and have a cup of tea. We wanted those 2 spaces for people to just do that and meet other community people. And so, so we just expanded on that outward and,
Yeah. Well, in 2000, I guess right after I met you, around that time I was starting Mindful Living Group, which is a group practice kind of similar to what you are offering, very much awakened, from within. I had that vision and intention for quite some time, so it's pretty exciting to look and see how your community has grown. And over here at Maui, we're on a growing journey as well, and have offered some. So it looks like you offer online sessions, you have retreats,
yes,
have groups, and still do the bodywork sessions. Your partner is also offering healing sessions also, and I saw that reading spiritual symbols is one of the gifts that she carries, so we'd love to talk to her sometime about that. That's a big theme that some of our community are speaking to right now, as we're in this stronger feminine influence where the feminine voice is allowed to contribute more to the creative force around us. And interpreting symbols is a big part of that. So any kind of go ahead.
Sorry. I think we, when we are doing similar, and I think that's the whole spiritual energy, is that we are doing similar. We're just doing it in like a chicken chop. We're different, but we're the same. But we are, when it comes to universal pattern, we are doing similar. And so it's not surprising we are doing same work just in different areas of the world. And we really believe that even though we have different pathways of different upbringing, and the universal soul group is coming together.
Yes, it is.
The soul group of the world. And so talking about that, I understand some of the prophecies are starting to move more into line with all of this. And so, like anything, the following the Western concept is moving people more into the cultural understanding, the Indigenous understanding, as they start becoming more and more to the forefront, and to share what was always there. But now people want to know. That's beautiful.
They're ready. There's a lot more people ready to know and ready to hear, and recognizing that the path that humanity's been on isn't sustainable. So, gotta find a new way. I mean, nature. One of my mentor said, nature will always be more powerful.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we might as well find a way to live in harmony and with it and listen, because it will correct us. So our human consciousness as a collective hopefully will continue to mature in that awareness and understanding.
Yeah.
And looking to our Indigenous wisdom and healers' voices is an important part of this transition that we're moving through. So I really appreciate you sharing with us today and taking the time. And I hope we can continue learning from you, and definitely will, bring together our healers' voices, leaders, to share together, pray together, create together, and just, amplify our influence.
Yeah.
Needed right now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And thank you for allowing me and like where you are, there's some big changes going on in the land, and so is my home is going through a big, huge cultural change. Government and new government in power right now, and so there's a lot of indigenous stuff happening right now. Mm-hmm.
There is a lot. Yeah, there is a lot. And so we're just really, really grateful. I know in Maui, we just went through pretty painful disaster. And there's a lot of challenges. The follow-up. I say the secondary wounding has been as painful as the original wound, if not more painful. Prolonged pain, and so we're learning to find new ways to resource each other and find different medicines that work. So I did put your website here. Is this still the correct website? themedicinewheel.com.au.
Wow. Cool.
themedicinewheel.com.au. So for our listeners who are not watching the video portion and haven't seen the banner of how to get in touch with Kane, the best way is to go to your website, check out. I see you have some free 15-minute consultations, as well as retreat opportunities, session bookings, and that's themedicinewheel.com.au. So any final prayer or thought or message you'd like to share in our closing?
Final message.
For now.
I think personal one is I understand people were going through a lot. Not so much of a prayer, but an understanding. I know where I can make sense of where people are at, especially now more than ever. I think this is the greatest time, even though it doesn't feel like it is. We have to wait a little bit longer for how this will play out. And I think over the next 2 years, there are better things beyond this as a society as a whole, and more connection to each other. I think like the system at the moment is not sustainable, as you said. It is a taking one. It is not a feeling one. There's no moral obligations to it. And I think that can only last so long because it does affect us spiritually. And more people are turning into those things to, even when they're doing it, doing yoga, doing breath work, doing ice baths, even though they're not going into it deep, and they go, that's the start. Those are the start to help them find out what more do I want to learn, compared to the people did not used to do those things. So especially here in Australia, those things are happening. And so it has to be a great thing, not a wrong thing. and people are becoming more community conscious. We are social beings. We've been taught for a while, the last 4 years, to isolate and to go into ourselves. And if you have comforts in your home, you don't want to go outside and share yourself because you've got everything in the home. And we weren't meant to do that. We're meant to be out instead of isolating. So stop isolating. Force yourself out, even if it's just for a walk, so that you can see what's out there. You can enjoy the sun. You can enjoy the rain. And that is so important for the soul and for the spirit, because when it's windy, let the wind blow the day's wind energy off you. Little simple things. There are little simple things out there that make you last another day, help you get through another day when it's uncomfortable. It'll help you get there until you find something that helps you move forward. And it's not easy. But you're not alone. There are a lot out there. We just have to find a way to tap into it. Keep looking until you find it.
So thank you for that prayer and message and inspiration. We just invite our listeners to really just bask yourself in that healer's voice influence, both within yourself as well as the wisdom of the speakers such as yourself on this show. So thank you so much for sharing, Kane, and for influencing us. And our prayers will continue to be with your homeland and also the people of Australia. And as we move through our own journey here on Maui as well, that we are a global family, that we are, one heartbeat with this beautiful planet and all the spirits that surround. And what we focus on and what we nurture and what we give our attention to definitely grows. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, and to thank everyone else out there who are listening. And take care, and wish you all well in your family, especially your family.
Thank you for joining us on this transformative journey through the heartbeats of healing. We hope that Healers Voices has filled your heart with inspiration and brought you closer to the spirit of aloha. As we conclude this episode, we invite you to continue this important conversation in your own life. Let these stories and insights resonate within you and inspire change in your own community and beyond. Remember, the power of healing is within all of us, and by working together, we can bring positive change to our world. Let's move forward with compassion, understanding, and a commitment to living in harmony with nature and one another. We'll be back with more incredible stories and voices of healing from Maui and around the world. Until then, please remember to follow and like us to support this continued raising of awareness, and continue practicing, embodying, and spreading the aloha spirit to make a difference in the world. Mahalo for listening to Healers Voices. We'll meet again soon.